Hello there, folks. My name is Spoonks, and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did. So let's get started. Number 5 was Don't Breathe 2, making $2.9 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total to $24 million and its worldwide total to $35 million. So the film held better than I thought it would. I thought with the stiff competition this weekend, the film would have plummeted, but no, it actually stuck around for a bit while longer, which surprised me, and mostly thanks to the international totals, the film was still able to double its $15 million budget, which is quite a feat. And while it's going to take some time to get there domestically, considering how low the numbers are for it now, I still think it's got a shot at doubling it domestically. I mean, it's only $6 million away, so even if it does start to plummet now, it's probably going to get there. But I still think it will be able to get to at least $30 million domestically. So once again, maybe for probably the fourth time this summer, it is yet another horror film that, despite, compared to everything else, is lacking in financial department. It is still a box office success because the movie was relatively cheap, so we can't be too harsh on the film. So whether you like this movie or not, and even if the film didn't even come close to its predecessors' totals, the film was still somewhat successful. Number 4 was Jungle Cruise, making $5 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total to $100 million and its worldwide total to $186 million. So, Jungle Cruise has now become one of the 5 films released this year to cross $100 million domestically, just behind Godzilla vs. Kong, which it will most likely surpass, Quiet Place Part 2, F9, The Fast Saga, and Black Widow. This is amazing. Once again, not a lot of people were really expecting this to happen. Many people were speculating the possibilities of this happening, but the film was able to do so, and I'm more than happy for it. I really enjoyed the movie. If you haven't checked out my review on it, I thought it was thoroughly entertaining, and the fact that this movie was able to be kind of the underdog and be one of the biggest surprises of not only the summer box office, but of the year as a whole is really spectacular. I'm very happy this movie is doing well, and this also puts it just like around 16, maybe $15 million away from $200 million worldwide, which is the film's initial budget, which I think is a possibility that it will cross that milestone in the coming future, so that's good as well. And I'm not the only one happy about this. Obviously, the cast and crew who worked on the film are happy that this movie was successful. I know The Rock is definitely happy, and Disney is as well, because there have been reports of a sequel in the makes, and now it has become official. Disney announced earlier this week that there is a Jungle Cruise 2 in the works, showing that they are very happy with how this movie did theatrically and also on Disney Plus, because apparently it also did really well on there too, so go figure. And even though it is starting to slow down in terms of its longevity, I mean, it's still holding strong, and also 100 million domestic is always good. I still think this is a pretty good sign about the future for this film. I think it's still going to make a ton of money, despite, again, it's probably going to start falling by the wayside very soon. But honestly, this was still a fantastic weekend, and I'm very happy that this movie's doing well. Number 3 was Paw Patrol, the movie, making $6.6 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total to $24 million and its worldwide total to $61 million. So this film held on stronger than expected. It fell just 49% this weekend, which is honestly a pretty solid hold if you ask me. This adds on to the case of family films doing better during these times than most films, as they continue to have strong holds, and this is obviously a part of that case. This movie is doing pretty well for itself. It's a cheap movie, especially for an animated movie, and it is about to surpass its $26 million total budget, domestically at the least, but worldwide, I'm pretty sure it has more than doubled that already, mainly to the international market. So it's pretty obvious that this movie is going to not only double its budget but also make a huge profit off of it. And considering we're only in its second weekend, I'm assuming that that money is just going to keep coming and coming, because once again, as I mentioned last week, there is no competition in terms of kids movies for another month or so. So I think this movie is pretty much in the clear for now. So we'll see how the film does for the coming weeks, as there are still a couple factors that are kind of detrimenting the film's totals. Obviously, it is being released simultaneously on Paramount Plus, so that obviously is a big factor into how this movie's doing. And also, kids are now back in school, so they can't obviously go to the theaters as much as they could in the summer. But for now, it's looking pretty good for the Paw Patrol, and I think that it may stand a chance at being one of the many animated films through this post-pandemic that continues to hold strong. But we'll see. We'll see how it continues to do. Number 2 is Free Guy, making $13 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $78 million and a worldwide total of $179 million. So despite losing the number 1 spot this weekend, this film still had a pretty good weekend. The film fell just under 30%, which is astonishing, and put the film over $70 million domestically, and is now around $20 million away from the $100 million milestone domestically, which I think that we'll be able to cross, and also around $20 million away from the $200 million milestone worldwide, which once again I also think the film will be able to do so, which is also around the film's doubling point, since the film costed around 100 to 125 million. So this movie is still doing great. I'm very, very happy it's doing well, because not only did I love this movie, but the fact that it's bringing so many people to the theater is just astonishing. I'm very happy with what this movie's doing. We'll see if it could continue to hold strong this weekend, as we've got very stiff competition coming out, which we'll talk about later in the video. But for now, once again, Free Guy is this behemoth of a movie that is taking the box office by storm, and I am more than happy that it is doing so. And finally, let's end the video off with the number 1 movie of the weekend, and that was Candyman, making $22 million on its opening weekend domestically, and is sitting at $27 million worldwide. So there's obviously lots to talk about here, the first being that this is the first film in history to be directed by a black female director to make it all the way to the number 1 spot at the box office, which is obviously outstanding and wonderful. That is incredible. I'm very happy that we were able to achieve this accomplishment. I'm sure Nia DaCosta is very happy to have this in her name now. And this will obviously not be her only number 1 spot at the box office, because she's also directing The Marvels, the new MCU film slated to come out around 2022, I believe. So that's obviously going to be another win for her, so I'm sure she's very happy about that as well. But as for the movie as a whole, this was another movie that exceeded expectations. Many people thought it was going to reach maybe 15, maybe 17 million, around that range, but the fact that it was able to make it all the way to 22 million is insane, and I'm sure everyone is happy that the film exceeded expectations. There was a lot of buzz, a lot of hype around the film, reviews were strong, and it's another movie to come out last year, but everyone was patiently waiting for it to come out, and now it's coming out, and everyone supported it on its opening weekend, which is also really good. And it's also one of the bigger opening weekends for horror films this year. I believe it's the 3rd biggest horror film opening for this year, behind The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, and obviously Quiet Place Part 2, so that's really good. And the film has already made a wide majority of its budget back, because I can't believe I have to make this comparison, but like Paw Patrol the movie, the film costed around 25 million, and I believe Paw Patrol had 26 million. They're basically in the same range. Again, I cannot believe I'm making this comparison, but the fact that this movie has already made the majority of its budget shows how well this movie is going to do in the long run. And even if the international numbers aren't as huge as they are over here, I still think this movie is going to be able to become a box office success because, in terms of competition, there isn't really much at stake for this movie. I mean, I could say that the upcoming movie coming out this weekend is stiff competition, but those are two completely different movies, and obviously it's going to be a huge hit, but we'll talk about that later. But in terms of horror, I know Malignant is coming out in the coming weeks, but I'm not sure how well that movie's gonna do. I'm not sure if it has a chance, maybe, but and also that movie will be released both theatrically and on HBO Max, where this movie is only being released in theaters, so not really a fair comparison there. But as far as I know and how things are looking right now, Candyman is off to a good start. And those were the top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, but we're not quite done yet as we've got another week ahead of us and new movies hitting theaters. And we've got one major release, and it's kind of a big one, and it's called ShangChi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So obviously right now, and compared to the many movies that have released as of late, this opening is going to be very huge, very big. The reviews have been great. They've been promoting it extensively. It's got the Marvel name attached to it, so that's obviously going to pique interest. And I'm certain it's going to break that Labor Day weekend record. And as for the month it's released in, September, it's looking to be a pretty slow month for huge movies, as many of the big tentpole ones got pushed back and delayed to another month, or in Clifford's case, indefinitely. But there's also a lot at stake for this movie, a lot of unnecessary pressure, I might add. First off, this movie will only be released in theaters, so unlike Black Widow, where that movie had the other option of being released at home on Disney Plus for $30, you can only watch this at the theater, so they're really testing how these big movies can do, and many are speculating if this movie underperforms, they're going to once again push other movies back, which is not good. And many are speculating with how bad things are right now, to put it lightly, in terms of the Delta variant. Many people are expecting it's going to kind of fall short. I think once again, I think the opening weekend compared to the movies released now is going to be big, but I think that it will most likely be one of the biggest opening weekends for any movie released this year, maybe around F9 70 million domestic total. There's also a chance it could exceed expectations. I mean, stuff like Free Guy and Candyman have shown that movies can exceed expectations released theatrical only, so we'll see how it does. Maybe it can do that, but we'll really see how this movie does, as well as the movies mentioned in this video, on the next episode of Box Office Chat. And that's gonna do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you guys think of the results? Were you satisfied, unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on all of the social media links right there. And until next time, guys, stay sharp.